What's up guys, Intellitech Studios here, and today we will be doing the full review of the Bissell PowerForce Bagged. Now this particular model is model 1398, the final revision of this machine before the consumer version was entirely redesigned. This features the same 8-amp motor as the current 1739 model, the model that replaced this, and it also has a very similar level of build quality, although this one is a little bit superior. Otherwise, it's very similar to the newer model, just, well, old style. So, this machine was on the market for a couple years. This particular example was manufactured in March of 2015, and I acquired this machine in March of 2020 as part of the Vacuum Saved series. This particular machine had some issues with it whenever I first got it. It was very, very, very dirty. It had a Hoover Y bag attached to it, and as a result it was leaking a lot of dust on the inside of the bag chamber, and the brush roll was completely covered in hair to the point where it had completely stretched out the belt. The brush roll I had repurposed in another machine and have since replaced with a brush roll from an aforementioned 1739. You can actually tell that from the blue bristles on the bottom of the roller. Now we can see that I have used this machine pretty extensively before this review in preparation for it. We can see there is plenty of fibers that have wrapped around the brush roll. I previously installed this brush roll after cleaning it off, and I did a video on how to change the brush roll and the belt, and I used this exact machine as an example, so it has a fresh belt in it as well, or at least it was fresh as at the time that I had done that repair. So this machine has been working very well, and thankfully because it has a new brush roll in it, it still performs very well, especially for a machine in this price range. Now sure, it's not the best performing machine in the world, but for the price range that these were originally sold at, and especially the price range you can get these used for, these are excellent value cleaners. We have the height adjustment wheels at the bottom, just like this, with a 5-position height adjustment switch. On this particular unit, the actual switch is a lovely turquoise color, which I rather like. On a lot of older units, this would be black to match the body, or it may be color matched to the actual unit. This 1398 model was also sold as a variant of the 71Y7-V, I believe it was, which was identical in design to this machine, but it had the older 10-amp motor, and that particular machine had a, I don't know if that one had a HEPA filter, but there was a very brief SKU of this machine that had the HEPA filter included by default, which is this style of filter. Although most of these machines, including the 1398 model, at least this specific example, came with the standard felt filter that is actually what's currently on the current 1739s, although those are not accessible by the end user as they require disassembly of the entire motor to get access to the filters. This older design has it very easily user accessible and upgradable to any HEPA filter that would fit this. You could also get a Febreze HEPA filter if you wanted to get the nice little smells at the end of it, although personally I'd rather just get a generic HEPA filter like this and then just spray some normal Febreze whenever you're actually done vacuuming. Speaking of Febreze, this machine does have a Febreze bag in it. The back door just pulls straight off. There's no release latch like on the newer units. This just is simply clicks on and pulls straight off with force. There's a little tab right there, just kind of brute force it out. It's a lot easier to remove than on the Big Green commercial variants, where it's actually a lot harder to remove this bag door because of the sort of rubberized plastic. It's a lot more force to pull this out, and the Sanitaire version is very easy to pull off. Now, both of these units are still in production, so if you want one of these machines and you want to get one brand new and you're not able to find one, both the Big Green Commercial and the Sanitaire SO4110A are both brand new machines you can still get around the $100 to $150 price range. So yes, while that is a lot more than what these originally went for, the build quality on these are a lot better, and they have significantly longer and much stronger cords. So that is one advantage of going either of these machines. In fact, the Sanitaire is my daily driver, and this Big Green is the machine that I often use whenever I go on cleaning jobs. Although I don't really do those too much anymore. Generally, if I'm going to a friend's house and doing some cleaning for them, or for a family member or anything like that, or if I do happen to clean commercially, I will often take this machine with me alongside my Amway ClearTrack. So you can tell these machines have been very reliable, at least for my usage case. Obviously, they do still have stretch belts, like I mentioned, so you do need to replace those belts. But the belts on these don't go out as quickly as they do on many Dirt Devil machines. So that is definitely nice. You can get by with you only changing a belt maybe every 6 months to a year, depending on your usage. And if you use this very sparingly as like a backup vacuum, then of course you wouldn't have to change the belt for like 2 to 5 years, depending on how frequently you use this thing. So one thing I will say is that these Febreze bags, while they do make a nice smell at the beginning of the vacuuming session, the second these things start to fill up with dirt, they start to sag, the smell immediately goes away, and they start to leak a lot of dust through. So I don't recommend these Febreze bags, but you can get clean Fairy HEPA bags for these units, which, as you can see, I've been utilizing in my daily driver Sanitaire. So if you want good filtration out of these machines, get some HEPA bags for it. You can see the inside of this still looks brand new, completely brand new, and that is thanks to these bags. Oh, help if I actually, there we go. So yeah, that is one thing, is that these do come with Febreze bags, and these aren't the worst bags in the world, but they are pretty close. I will say, if for whatever reason you have a gun to your head and you're stuck at a Walmart and you have to decide between the Febreze bags and the Great Value ones, get the Febreze ones because they're a very similar quality, but at least you get that smell. But I wouldn't go out of my way to get either of these bags. They're not very good. HEPA bags are the way to go. And also, if yours has the standard post-motor filter, you don't have to replace it, but if you do want to replace it, you can usually, last I checked, get these HEPA filters in a 4 or 5 pack for about $10-12. Maybe it's changed since then. These HEPA filters do last a very long time as well, so you're realistically not going to change these after maybe a year or two, especially if you have HEPA bags, and at that point this is only catching motor carbons, and it's going to last even longer. The only other filter that is in this machine is there's a pre-motor filter that's underneath the bag. And assuming you don't blow up a bag or anything, you're pretty much never going to have to clean this filter. If you have a really poor filtering bag, or if you happen to just have a really dirty machine, then you might have to clean that filter more often. But if you get the type of bags where you're not actually letting dust through, then you're never going to have to clean that pre-motor filter. On my original 3522 Power Force that was my daily driver for about 8 years, that machine I used the Arm & Hammer bags back when Walmart still sold the Arm & Hammer bags, and I used those for years, never once overfilled a bag, and never blew up a bag, and I never once had to clean the pre-motor filter. So as long as you keep good maintenance on your bags, use good quality bags in your machine that don't leak through a lot of dust, you're not going to have to worry about that pre-motor filter. And so that is one thing that's nice about bagged vacuums, is that you ironically have less maintenance, especially because the bags last a lot longer than before you'd have to but before you have to empty the bagless systems, like in a lot of the competing bagless Power Forces, or wash the filters that would be somewhere integrated into that dust cup setup. These machines are a lot easier in that regard. Another area where I really like this machine over the new style of Power Force, I should say, and the bagless as well, because it's kind of a problem with both. I don't know what that is, I'm going to have to clean that off. Is the side mounted power switch. So you can actually easily tell which position the switch is in, which is a very nice feature. And again, another reason why I like the commercial versions of the other two machines. This feels a lot more robust than the foot style pedal switch. This feels like it can stand up to a lot more. I definitely had to replace these switches a lot less often than the foot switches. Those tend to go bad a lot quicker than these side-mounted power switches, and they're also just not as nice to use. For some people, that's preferable, but for me personally, I prefer the side-mounted power switch. So obviously that's going to be up to personal preference, whether or not you prefer one or the other. Now, as far as I know, none of these units came with an actual handle-mounted power switch, so you're not really going to find that. If you want something like that, you'd have to get something like a Hoover wind tunnel if you want something in that regard. But still, the side-mounted power switch is perfectly fine, in my opinion, and that also means that there's less hassle whenever you're taking off the handle. So, now coming back here and looking at the attachments, we do have 3 attachments on this unit. We have a combination dusting brush and upholstery tool. So this particular attachment has a dusting brush on one side, although the bristles on this are very stiff and coarse. This is not a very effective dusting brush. I would not use it as such. This is more of an upholstery brush. You don't want to use this on anything delicate. Then you have a standard upholstery side, which doesn't have any sort of felt to grab any hair or anything, but it does have these little sort of divots right here, presumably for airflow or for consistent contact. And you can actually swivel the base on this to turn it to whichever direction you want, and it connects right there. Another little thing that you can see is that there's actually a little groove in there. What that's designed for is that when you have the crevice tool out, you can actually put this on the edge of the crevice tool and use it like an extension wand without losing airflow. So that's a very nice feature. So you can actually use the crevice tool as an extension wand and still get the full airflow in either end of these. So that's definitely a very nice feature. So if you want to use this for upholstery, you can use this as an extension wand and not lose any airflow and still be able to clean just as effectively, if not better, because now the suction is more concentrated. And of course, combined with the extension wand, you actually do have a pretty decent amount of reach, given the price range this is in. So you can actually reach a good amount. And the other thing that's nice about this is that this has the exact same reach as the original 3522s that this machine was based off of. However, while you do lose the sort of suction release valve on the crevice tool, as well as the gray coloring to easily distinguish it, the actual hose has been upgraded from a standard blow molded hose. Oh my god, I said that wrong. From a standard blow molded hose to a proper wire reinforced stretch hose. Now, this is not the best stretch hose. You can see it's already kind of short, but it does stretch a decent amount for what it is. This is a lot better than the hose on the newer 1398 units. You can see this is capable of stretching a good amount. This isn't enough to get up like any sort of significant height staircase, but in my case, if I'm trying to clean up cobwebs in the corners, it's more than sufficient, especially with this long reach with all of these attachments. So for example, if I wanted to attach this on the end right here, you can see there's a nice handle right on this built-in wand, and if I wanted to go all the way up into this corner, I can do that. Now, the unit does tip over a little bit, especially with the suction of the hose and the machine being very lightweight, but that's nothing a little foot can't solve. So that's definitely very nice. Although I do understand the appeal of the newer units, how there isn't a wand that you can't remove. So again, that is up to personal preference. For me, I like having the built-in wand on the end of the hose, but some people may prefer the newer units where this little wand ends right here, and where that's just the handle, because you don't always want a big wand like this, even just the one that's included right here. So that's always up for personal preference, but in my opinion, I like having this part here. And the extension wand is also like 2/3, or I should say, the newer units, the extension wand is 2/3 as long as this one is, so you actually do get longer reach from these older units in every way versus the newer Power Force. Although the funny thing is, the new Power Force bagged, the crevice tool is the same size, but if you get the bagless ones, the crevice tool is about half the size. So on that one, you get even less length, and the standard Power Force Helix then has the standard blow molded hose. So again, even worse reach. So that is one benefit for these older units. The reach is actually a lot better. But if you don't want reach and you just want to be able to like vacuum couches and stuff, and you don't like having an extension wand there that you wouldn't be using otherwise, then that may be incentive to upgrade to one of the current models in production. But again, if you do like this sort of design, you can still find these on the used market or get one of those commercial ones that I just showed earlier. So now we gotta try to pull this all apart. So, and then of course, the other nice thing about this that the newer units don't have, which I think is a very, very bad oversight, is that the joints on these are actually swivelable. You can actually turn these on both the hose and on the actual inlet, so that way this can actually go on properly and the hose isn't constantly getting kinked and twisted and messed up because it's just hardwired to the actual wand. I think that's a really bad design that's on the newer units, and this older model does not have that problem. So I don't think it's a good idea to have the hose just permanently connected to this and not have any sort of swiveling joint like this. So again, another incentive for the older style Power Forces. Also, you can put this on any way you want. You can either put it on like this or like this. I prefer to put it on like this because you can see the brush has a little bit more space on this side versus here where it's rubbing up against the wand. So I like to put this on right here. There's a little lip right here. You just kind of rest it on there and push it into place just like that. I know a lot of people have a hard time getting this tool on. It can be a bit confusing. Just match up the molding, push it in place, and there you go. And as far as the extension wand, the crevice tool pops right off, and you flip it around and store it inside the extension wand, just like that. And you can see right there it says removable crevice tool, so you know to pop it right out. And then now you just line it up right there and click it into place. Another thing that I really like about these older units is the way the carrying handle is positioned. This is set up a lot more naturally than on the new units. On the new units, you basically carry it like this, which you can do on this, but there's not really any lip to actually put your fingers in, and there's kind of a slippery black plastic, so this can kind of feel not very secure, and that's how the newer units do it. There's like a little lip on the inside right here, and that's how you would carry it. This particular unit, you actually have a carrying handle on the back. It has a nice little groove that you can rest your hand into. It's centered a lot more, and it makes a lot more sense. It makes the machine a lot easier to carry around, and the machine is very lightweight, so it's very easy to carry around and maneuver. So that's another thing that is very nice. I don't remember the exact weight off the top of my head, but it's usually around the 12-pound mark for these machines, maybe about 13 if you include the cord. So it's honestly not that much. And there's also the reason why I pick one of these to use for commercial use instead of something like an Oreck, because this does out-clean an Oreck. You still have to replace the belts just like an Oreck, so there's not much difference there. The cord is about the same, or at least this cord is long enough to where if the Oreck is a bit longer, it's not much of an incentive. And this actually has onboard tools, so that's less cost. Even if this is about the same price as an Oreck or possibly a little bit more, I'm not having to go buy a separate second machine to use for above floor cleaning applications, and that's another incentive for something like this. So people always ask me, hey, if you want a cheap commercial machine, why don't you just get a commercial Oreck? The reason I choose this is because it's not that much heavier than an Oreck. It cleans a lot better. The bags are cheaper. The maintenance is about the same. The cord is about the same, at least to me. And the tools are a much needed upgrade. So that's the personal reason why I actually like these over Orecks as daily drivers. Even if the Oreck might be better built or potentially last longer, that is something that, I've always kind of wondered. Having the hose and having the tools on these are very nice to have, and they're very lightweight. Unlike the competing wind tunnels, which those are a lot sturdier, but they're also a lot thicker and a little bit less. I'm not gonna say a lot, but they are less easy to maneuver. These are a lot easier to work with, and yeah, the build quality in this machine is downgraded from the original 3545 and 3522s. But it is still better than the newer 1739s. But the advantage of the 1739s is, while they are a little bit flimsier, they are a lot lighter. So it's not always as simple as it's better because it is or isn't built better, because both of these machines, if you treat them very nicely and you keep up on all the maintenance, it's going to last a decade, if not longer than that. I don't see any scenario where that doesn't happen. I've seen plenty of these machines that are 10, 15 years old and still working just fine. Plenty of people will try to tell you that you need to spend, hundreds of dollars on a vacuum to make it last. That's not true. The only reason we don't see these last very often is because the people that usually buy these spend so little on the machine at MSRP that they don't bother fixing it and simply want to throw it away and buy a new machine for that unboxing experience. And that doesn't necessarily speak anything for the quality of the machine itself. Many of the situations with these machines were thrown out prematurely or because of abuse or neglect in some fashion. If you treat these machines right, they will treat you right as well, and this machine is no exception to that. Even when this machine was treated poorly, I was able to restore it, and it since has been working fine, and this will easily be passed on to another customer. For those wondering, in fact, I will be selling this shortly after this video. I will be holding on to the attachments, but I will sell the rest of the machine once I clean it up once again. So if you are interested in this machine, be sure to follow my OfferUp page, and you'll see whenever I post this, because I have these two other machines, as well as the older 3522 and all the Power Glides. I have enough machines that look like this, and this one just is missing enough features to not quite make the cut. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean it's a bad machine. It just means that for me, I prefer the older units that have more features like the headlight and the bag change indicator. But if you don't use either of those features, if you check your bag often enough yourself and you don't need a headlight, then this is still a perfectly solid option. One other thing that I don't like about this when compared to the older models is they've removed the cord protector. So sometimes these cords can split right here, although I don't see it too often on these machines. I do see it often on others. And the reason that's not usually a problem on these commercial units is because the cords are already so thick and such good quality large gauge wires that you don't have to worry about them splitting coming off of the vacuum. So that is one thing. So there's not much else to say about this. This machine, oh, and another thing that I forgot to mention is that regarding the build quality front, one of the things that they did actually improve with the newer PowerForce models is the handle. Because whenever you twist this handle does often feel very flimsy. It's not, so bad. I had definitely seen some other machines that are a lot worse, but because it's kind of two pieces of plastic that are attached together with screws, this can feel very flimsy. On the newer PowerForces, as well as on the Sanitaire with the metal handle, this is all one molded plastic piece, so it's very rigid, and it makes the build quality of the rest of the machine feel a lot better because what you're holding feels a lot sturdier. So that is one thing. Even if the base, for example, is a lot sturdier on this than on the newer units, the handle on the newer units is a lot sturdier. Although, in my opinion, this one is still more comfortable to hold. So, with that in mind, I think I already mentioned the missing bumper on the front of these compared to these units and the older style ones as well. You have the molding for this, but the actual bumper isn't there. And the edge cleaning is a little bit better on the newer units because it's not designed to have that bumper, so the actual suction intake is a little bit closer to the edge, allowing for better edge cleaning, even though ironically the older units advertise edge cleaning a lot more. So edge cleaning isn't the best on these machines, but there is a crevice tool on it for a reason. So that's pretty much it. There's not much else to say about these units. So it's definitely a machine that I do enjoy having restored, but I do think they removed too many features from this. And if you can get one of these for super cheap, I would say definitely pick it up, especially if it just needs some basic maintenance that you can do yourself. Parts are still relatively easy to find for these machines, given the fact that they're still somewhat in production in some fashion. So you shouldn't have too many problems getting one of these up and running. Parts are super cheap. You can get many of them from Bissell directly, so that is very nice. And yeah, I think I mentioned the handle release is going bad on these often too. That is one issue that these have, is the handle release will often go bad on these, but that is an easy enough fix. So that is an unfortunate design flaw of these. The handle releases do break very frequently, but again, if you are nice to them, then they're probably not going to do anything. Again, that is one thing I will say, is that even if you are nice to these machines, the one thing that could go wrong is the handle release, because sometimes, even if you're nice to those, they do still break. But generally, if you're not throwing the machine around and slamming it on the ground and stomping on the base, the handle release will probably last the entire life of the machine. I do have plenty of these machines where the original handle release are still good, and I also have just as many where they are bad. So again, I've seen a lot of these Bissells. I've been fixing these Bissells for 15 years, so you tend to kind of catch the patterns as far as what works and what doesn't. But anyways, that is pretty much it. This is Intelitech Studios signing out with my review of the Bissell PowerForce Model 1398, the 8-amp final revision of the PowerForce. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you like this video. Like the video if you like this video. And if you don't like this video and you hated this, well, subscribe anyway, because why not? Anyways, this is Intelitech Studios signing out. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Peace.